two, one. Hello, everybody. This is Cody Chavez, Captain of the Nostalgic Nebula, and thank you for joining us for our 13 Ghosts watch party. Today is Saturday, June the 13th, and we're broadcasting live from the Frida Cinema in Santa Ana, California. Today's watch party is in benefit of the Frida, our favorite nonprofit. The Frida served as our mother venue since our inception back in 2016. You can find a more welcoming art house cinema, a cultural center here in the heart of Santa Ana, California, with one of the greatest communities of class, staff, and troops of volunteers who make this place possible, and some of the greatest programming you will ever see, from indie to foreign and cult films. So if you would please, in this time while the Frida is shut down, please go to the link on your screen down below in the info section and give today. It really helps and will keep this magical theater running. Tonight we have with us the filmmakers of 13 Ghosts. He has written for the Hellraiser and Puppet Master franchises. We have with us writer Neal Marshall Stevens. We also have the master himself, prop master Dean Eilertson, who has worked on various films from X-Men, and he's even worked with Hollywood giants like Godzilla. He's the composer of such films as Ghost Ship, Alien Resurrection, and Office Space. We have composer John Frizzell. We also have production designer Sean Hargreaves, who's worked with us on fairly unheard of films such as Avengers and Star Wars. I don't know, maybe you've heard of these films. We also have a very special guest, one of the ghosts, the Torn Prince himself, Craig Olechnik. I hope I said that right. Sorry, Craig. I forgot to ask you before we went.
Pretty good. Good enough for me. Thank you, Cody.
Well, it's a real pleasure to have you here. I'm glad we were able to have one of the actors, especially one who got to experience not just the sets, but be in that kind of excellent practical makeup.
Yeah.
But anyways, I guess the audience probably wants me to hurry up and turn it over to you guys, let the conversation get rolling. So you at home, if you've got 13 Ghosts queued up on YouTube or on DVD right now, go ahead and get ready. We're going to be starting the film. When I say play, after I count down from 3, go ahead and hit the play button. And we'll all start right from the beginning, right when the wavy Warner Brothers logo goes by. So let's get ready, guys. 13 Ghosts in 3, 2, 1, play. Go ahead and hit the play button. Ooh. All right. So, 13 Ghosts. How did this project originally come to be? I believe they already did The Haunting, and
Haunting of Hill, The Haunting of Hill House. Tell me what it was. Which was it? Not The Haunting of Hill House, but House on Haunted Hill.
House on Haunted Hill. There we go.
And basically, Joel Silver had put together Dark Castle Entertainment, the purpose of which was to remake all of those William Castle movies. And they'd made House on Haunted Hill, remade it, and that had been quite successful. And they were looking around for another one of William Castle's movies to make. And he went to this one, to 13 Ghosts, which is, anyone who's seen the original, they had the glasses in the movie, and they also had the equivalent, which was not exactly 3D glasses. It was this gadget that had like a red strip and a blue strip, and if you look through the one, basically the ghosts were projected on the screen in one of 2 colors. I forget which, either was red or it's blue. So if you look through, and the idea was, if the ghosts are too scary, you look through the thing in one color and then the ghost disappears, or you can look through in the other and the ghost appears. And so that was the idea. And whenever someone on the thing puts on a pair of glasses, that's when you're supposed to look through these glasses. And so you can, when they take the glasses off, you look through the non-thing and the ghost disappears, you look through the other, the ghost appears. And so that idea fascinated Joel, was the idea that you wouldn't use this silly red blue thing, but that you could actually somehow, and they were in conversation when I was brought on the project. They were actually in conversation with ILM. Could you actually do this? That is, come up with glasses to give the audience, so that when someone in the movie put on the glasses, you could put on the glasses and the ghost would become visible. You take the glasses off, the ghost on the screen would become invisible. And they were, I'd gone out to, I pitched the project. The executives loved it. They pitched it to Joel Silver. Joel Silver had hated it. He pitched me his idea. I was at that point writing his idea, but whatever. The point is, they wanted to do this, the thing with the glasses. And I said, that's fascinating. At the same time, I knew a little bit about the laws of physics. And I was thinking, this is not actually possible. I understood how filtering light, you could, if you look through red and you were seeing something red, it disappeared. You look through blue, it looked a little bit stronger. But you can't do something where taking glasses off makes something disappear unless you were actually involved in the supernatural. And they showed me the test that ILM had done, and they were saying, well, if the background is really busy, it's like we're getting close. We can almost make, and it's like, I took off the glasses, I could still see the ghost. And it's like, this is like getting close to perpetual motion. They're never going to ace this thing. But the executive said, no, they're getting close to it. ILM is going to crack this thing. So put it in the script. And so like the first, 3 or 4 passes of the script that I wrote actually said, in the same way, in the same way that William Castle says, when they put on the glasses, put on your glasses, and when they take the glasses off, take your glasses off. And it was worked into the script, the thing with the glasses. But they were never able to crack it. And at a certain point, that whole element of putting on the glasses, taking off the glasses was gone. And it was actually worked into it was part of the trick, because of course, I'm assuming everyone in the audience has seen the movie, and we know that Cyrus being alive or being a ghost was a trick. So that was all part of the trick. That is, that at some point, Tony Shalhoub takes his glasses off, and it turns out that Cyrus is still there. That was also part of the trick about wearing the glasses, not wearing the glasses. But it all fell by the wayside because the glasses never worked, and that never worked. And, I know that Joel was really disappointed about that, but what are you going to do? It's Joel versus physics. Didn't happen. It just didn't happen. What are you going to do? But that, if you're asking why that movie, that was why that movie, because he wanted to do the glasses.
And this opening scene, where was this filmed? Is this on set or on location?
The opening scene
here in the junkyard.
The junkyard. Someone's going to have to answer that question. I really don't know.
That was a real junkyard production. Sean, you'll correct me if I'm wrong. They had to purchase all the vehicles that we were going to use, clean them out, get rid of all the gas and the batteries and all that. Yeah. I think all the vehicles were painted as well, right? To bring down the mood.
Yeah, it was a real junkyard, and we had to completely redo it. It was quite a task. But yeah, that was real deal. Don McCauley was the guy on that. Remember Don, Dean?
Yeah.
Yeah, he was my art director, so I gave that to him. Told him what needed to be done, and then he took it from there. But yeah, it was a real junkyard.
And how about these glasses? Was that your work, Dean? Finding these glasses or putting them together?
They were not found. We built those glasses. That was the beginning of some of the early CNC work. The big problem was finding something that ergonomically would fit a child's face and an adult's face. And the on-off switch for the lights, the little LED lights on the side, was if the glasses were sitting on a shelf closed and the lights were off. When you open them to put them on your face, the lights came on.
Yeah. I also just want to say that, the score for this opening scene in the junkyard is fantastic.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Are you guys all watching the movie right now?
I'm watching it more than I'm listening to it.
But I can't. I mean, I can't find it. Where is it?
I'm not actually watching it either. I guess I'd have to. I thought we'd have a link to it, but I guess you can't. Do that.
Yeah. I just put it in my. I have an ancient computer. I slipped it into my the DVD player on my computer, so I'm just kind of flipping back and forth between us. But I watched it before I started it, so I remember saying, God, the music in this is fantastic.
Oh, that's really kind of you.
That's so very when the blood truck comes out and there's all the rest. It's like oh, this is. Gee, I really kind of like that. I had them spraying blood. I did not, by the way. I'm not responsible for writing the tanker truck full of blood, so I can't take credit for that. But it was.
How did the tanker truck come about then?
This was I wrote a whole bunch of drafts. Then Steve Beck came on. I mean, the basic the sequence of events was they wanted to go into production very quickly on the movie. I wrote until I had like one pass left in my contract, and it wasn't until that point that they brought Steve Beck on, and he had just a long list of notes, and essentially what I said is, and it was sort of a whole smorgasbord of ideas, and some of them were okay, some of them were wildly out in the world. And what I said to the execs at the time is that, look, you want me to tackle these notes, you need to understand that this is not one pass away from production. This is the beginning of a development process, and you're gonna, you start with these notes. It's gonna take you a year before you're gonna end up in production. And they say, yeah, all right, fine. Why not just do what you think you can do? And I did what I thought I could do, and then they kicked me off the project. And then 6 or 8 months later, I got a call from my agent, and they said, they came to me and they were looking for another writer to work on 13 Ghosts. Apparently they had 2 other writers on the project, and they came to me for a writer and said, well, Neal still has a pass to doing this thing. When I had to bring Neal on. And so I looked at the draft that, 2 writers later, they'd come up with a pass, again, working through Steve's notes. And I think the result was really kind of a mess. And I thought, it's not going to work for me to try to kind of work through this draft. What I can do is I can go back to the last draft that I wrote, and I'll give you another pass. I'll write another pass or however many passes on that and see if I can get you to a production draft. And they said, fine, do that. And then I did that. And then they kicked me off the project again. And they brought in somebody else. And they did a bunch of changes, mostly on 2 things. One, originally, Joel, who's like a super big architecture fan, he loves architecture. And he had fallen in love with the new Rose Center at the Museum of Natural History in New York, which is a gigantic glass cube. And the reason the house is a giant glass cube is because the Rose Center is a giant glass cube. And he wanted the hero, the father, to work at the Rose Center, work at the Museum of Natural History. And he wanted all of this to happen in New York, out in on the East Coast. So the house was located like out in Long Island. The father worked at the Museum of Natural History, and that was in all of the drafts that I wrote. Also, they talked about having a Black character, and I'd suggested that the character who's now played by Shaggy, maybe he could be a Black character, but they didn't go for that. So I never had a Black character. The woman who's now played by Rod Digga was actually an English au pair, was like an English nanny. And she turned out to be the one who was in cahoots with Cyrus. And then she'd implanted them. She'd been implanted with the family. She was manipulating them. And so she was the bad girl. So when they made her into Rodiga, introduced the black character that way, she could no longer be the bad guy. So they made the other woman into the bad guy. So those were all kind of changes. Plus they moved it to the West Coast. So they lost they made him into a teacher, which he was in the original. So those were all changes that were made after I departed the project. And, Rod Digger was great. And, that the whole line about, where's the lawyer? He split. Line came after. And again, it was all possible because they created that character, which was a fantastic line. But many of those changes, I think, had to come from the fact that they made the decision. They couldn't use the Rose Center. They couldn't use the Museum of Natural History. They couldn't have it take place in the East Coast. A lot of the changes cascaded from that. And all
Great
that
history,
happened.
Neal.
Yeah. So, again, some of the changes I think worked well. Some of them I wish I'd love to have had the Rose Center, the Museum of Natural History as part of the story, but I think it's cleaner and it's simpler. I kind of wonder how the school teacher has a nanny. It's just a little bit weird, but I guess it's okay, whatever, so that was, but I think the cast is all wonderful. I think everyone in it does a really great job. The design, of course, is fantastic and always was great. I mean, I had a little bit of a different conception of the house as I wrote it. You all get those little puzzles that consist of the little squares that you kind of move around and shift like that. That was sort of how I imagined the house, that it was consisting of glass cubes, and the glass cubes moved up, and every time it shifted, every time a ghost came alive, these cubes moved up and down and back and forth. So you might be up on the third floor and it moved back and forth, and suddenly you were in a different, but I imagine that was just incredibly difficult to pull off. So they didn't do it.
Sounds like they adapted that for Cabin in the Woods.
Yeah,
that seems familiar.
They did. They also did it for, I think, the movie that was called The Cube, where the pieces actually moved up and down and back and forth, which was also kind of a cool movie. But
yeah, I think there was I remember that about those cubes moving around. I think that was just a simple cost decision.
Yeah, it was just like, yeah, I think it's like they just could not do that. It's just too expensive.
Yeah.
So this is what we say in the business, c'est la vie.
Yeah.
I just realized I had on the shelf is I have the score right here.
Oh,
wow.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, this is the whole score to the movie.
Yes, if I could read music, and I actually know what that would say, and if it was didn't just look like white paper. But,
someday I would love to get a look at that, John, because we spoke to you about a year ago. We wanted to put together a kind of horror movie concert with a string quartet.
Yeah, we could go right into this, and we could create excerpts and things like that. It'd be fun to kind of follow the actual cues with as you're watching it. Okay. But a lot of them, they overlap and they get edited and things like that. It's a lot of music, and so you finish one page in here, it actually is overlapping on the next page. So it's a lot of interesting transitions.
Do you bind all your soundtracks that you make like that?
Yeah, I usually do. I have a collection.
That's pretty.
A lot of them bound.
That's great. I love that.
Keep them all. See what I did while I was on Earth. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's great.
You find yourself writing new things in there, saying, should have put that.
I mean, I'm sure, like you guys, whenever I look at something I've done, I always sort of go, well, what if I had done this? What if I had done that? What if I thought about it this way? And you kind of grow, and you think, oh, well, or sometimes you'll hear like an old thing, an idea, and I'll think, well, why don't I do that anymore? Why did I start doing that?
Yeah. Do you ever find yourself listening to the music of other movies and saying, you know what? If only they had done it this way, because I know I do that with when I look at scenes that in other movies and say, you know what, could have been a little bit better if I had only written it, I could have written it like that. Do you find yourself doing that with scores?
I mean, usually if I notice the score, if I'm very engaged in the show, then I get completely immersed in it. And every once in a while I'll lock in and go, wow, this score is really great. So usually when I notice a really great score, I mean, one of the scores I really love these days is Ramin's score to Westworld, which it's just amazing. I just sit there and go, man, that is just so, it's just so detailed episode to episode. And I get so involved in the episodes, and then I sort of pull out and I think of all the work that's going on behind the scenes to make a score that's that effective. That's a score I think is extraordinary.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. But I mean, so if I don't like a score, well, then I just kind of go, it kind of pulls me out of the whole thing. And I kind of get feeling like, oh, yeah.
So John, when you were composing for 13 Ghosts, at what point do you see the dailies and you start thinking about it, or do they just hand you the movie at the end when it's kind of a bit of a way along and you begin?
A lot of the time I'll get the first cut of scenes or sort of an area of the film, like a reel. Trying to think on 13 Ghosts, I think there was actually a rough cut of the film when I came on. Yeah.
So how long did it take you to compose?
I think we were moving pretty fast. Now, wait a minute. Am I correct? It was either Ghost Ship or 13 Ghosts that when we were in post 9/11 hit. I think it's 13 Ghosts. Did that make sense?
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
Okay, so we were about to record, and 9/11 occurred, and we were going up to Seattle to record the orchestra, and I think it was one of the first days that there was airplanes going up, and I remember going up on that flight, and there was maybe 6 or 7 people on the whole plane, and probably 3 of them were air marshals and our team, and that was pretty striking. It was a horrendous and extraordinary time.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, I remember that because it was on September 11th, we were scheduled to, and we did do some pickups. We did a shot, I guess, where all the ghosts leave the house at the very, very end. That was added later on. And I remember waking up, getting ready to go to work, and turning on the TV and witnessing what was happening and going, do we go to work? What do we do? What do we because of that?
Yeah, that was it. And I remember like working through it, and we just didn't know, are we going to keep going? Are we going to stop? And we just kind of pushed through. I think we recorded, I probably figure this out, but I think we recorded around the 20th of September. Let me see if it's in this book.
You got the log.
There may be some dates in here somewhere.
This is excellent. Right now, what's happening on the screen, they're about entering the house, and the key that they use and the way the door opens. Did you design that key, Dean?
I would say that Sean designed the key, and I took care of pulling it.
I mean, I designed the door. I think I can't remember if I designed the key, but that door was a very complicated mechanism. It was in plan view, it was like a diamond shape, or basically a square turned 45 degrees, and it was a double diamond. One opened, another closed. When that closed, the next one opened. So it was almost like an airlock, and it had a lot of concentric pieces of metal that gave it that kind of rigidity, and all those reflective pieces. And it obviously the key didn't actually make the door open. It was done off camera by on-set guys, but it was pretty convincing. That was a pretty fun thing to design. It went through quite a bit to make that work, and it was a good entry to that house, that crazy house.
I imagine that shooting in a house that is full of so many reflective surfaces must have been hellish.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
What happened with that was always a discussion. And when I designed the house, we made a model of it, and we had little cameras down there to photograph. We could see ourselves in these little photographs in the model, and they're like, oh boy. And so what happened is, we still went ahead with building the house. We said that, they all said we'll figure it out. The director of photography said we'll figure it out, and we built the house. And one of the first things on the first day, the first assistant director said was, or actually leading up to the first day of the shoot, the assistant director said, we have to come in and everyone has to wear black clothing. Do you remember that, Dean? Everyone had to wear black clothing, and everyone's like, oh boy, now I have to go out and buy black clothing. And so the first day of the shoot, everyone looked like ninjas, and so that we wouldn't see reflections around the house. And of course, you do see reflections regardless, and you certainly, if anyone moves, you see people move, because you'll see someone over there moving in a reflection over there. You'll see a light bounces around as well. You get these weird little, we call them caustics, little light caustics, the kind of thing you would see in the bottom of a pool, but it would be static, and these little dots all over the place, and they'll be running around trying to block those off with what we call flags, which are these black flags to block all the lights off. So it was a learning experience, definitely the first week, and certainly the first day of shooting. But I think after about a week, people started running out of black clothing, and it started by the end of the second week or the third week, it was back to normal. And the DP just figured it out. They figured out the areas that were problem areas, and areas where you didn't stand when they were shooting a particular scene, and it got to be a big thing. And
Well, it was,
there you go.
This
I mean,
was part of the
Gail,
it was Gail Tattersall that was the director of photography, and they had the light from below or from above.
Yeah.
If you had lights inside the set, it was like holding a mirror to a mirror. You just saw infinity.
Yeah.
But the light below the floor, there were people under there just on fire watch. That was their job the whole time, because lights back then were not the LED lights we see now.
They were hot.
If you were kneeling on the floor to do something, you had to put a towel down to put your knee on top of, because that floor was so hot.
Wow.
It was very hot. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was 4 feet off the deck of the stage, so it had 4 feet of leeway for the lights, but still, I mean, it still didn't. There was loads of fans under there, right? Right, Dean, remember that?
They had fans. They had fire watch. They were trying everything to just maintain a temperature down there that wasn't about to spontaneously ignite the whole set and crew. I think is what I remember.
Yeah. And those were all plexiglass walls.
No, we built this. This was built on a stage called Bridge Studios, which was a converted bridge building factory. So the stage that we're on was incredibly long, but not very narrow. It was only 70 feet wide. I think it was 400 feet long and about 70 feet wide. And so the width of the set was very, very close to the edge of the walls on one side, but on the other side, it was like hundreds of feet. So you'd walk on the set, and you'd walk 150 feet you walk on the stage, and then 150 feet to the set was this box in the middle of this really long building. And so it was a concrete floor able to withstand very heavy bridge building machines. And we built the set out of real, it was glass and real I-beams. It wasn't wood and plexiglass. It was the real, because the problem is we had multiple levels. We had glass. If we had everything made of wood, anyone walking down a hallway, the glass would shake, So it was very important that we didn't have any shakes in the glass when people were walking around. So it was deemed better to build the thing out to practical materials.
Wow.
Yeah, so it was probably one of the heaviest sets for the square footage ever built for a film. It was very, very, very heavy. and it was a couple of levels. The top level was not as built out as the bottom level, but because of all the glass, it just kept going on. It made it look like it was a huge place.
Yeah.
And all the walls that needed to move practically. There was no special effects there. There was no, we didn't really use. There was only in that film. There's a little bit of CG, for the ocularis, which is in the basement.
When the machine spins.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there was some matte painting done for the wide shot when they entered the house at the beginning, and certain other bits. When the house, there's a big change. There was some effects work done, but for the most part, it was all done very practically, meaning it was all done for real. And all of those walls, panels had to be engineered and worked out, which was quite a bit of. There was a lot of 7-day, very long days working the planning out that set before it was built, to make it work relative to the script. It's one of those things where you design something, everyone says, "Oh, that's a cool idea," and now you have to actually make it practical and make it work, and then you're like, "Oh God, what did I create?"
How did you guys? How did the scene where Craig, you get cut in half, right? I'm not telling any plot.
Not me. No, that's not me. That was someone else.
I get my ghosts mixed up sometimes.
No, that was the lawyer.
The lawyer gets
right.
The schnick.
Now, Craig, you're
fun day.
the Torn Prince, Craig. You got the cool.
Right.
Letterman baseball bat.
Ben Moss is the guy.
Ben Moss is the lawyer.
Yeah.
Yeah, that most people who saw the movie, that was like one of the biggest takeaways, like the scene that really shook them the most and they thought was so badass. The splitting in half. Neal, did you write that?
That was me. I was trying to think of a good way to. I said I didn't come up with a line. Where's the lawyer? He split. That was a great line, not mine. But the idea of, because we kind of understand that glass is lethal, and there were two scenes that I wanted to write in that movie, and that was one that really came out very well. The idea was like he's just standing there, and he is
that like a subtle Shakespeare thing, having a lawyer get cut in half? I mean, you know what I'm saying?
Could be, but I love the idea that he's just standing there, and at first we don't know what's happened, and the glasses fall off, and there's like one, and then the money thing tumbles out, and then it's like he just starts to slide, and it's only then that we realize, like, oh shit, he's been sliced in half. The other scene that I wrote that was used, but I think not as I really wanted it, was the scene where I guess now it's Kalina who gets trapped between the walls of glass, and it's really just kind of shown in a single shot. But as I had written it, those walls of glass come together quite slowly. And so as they're very slowly coming together, she really is doing her very best to get out, but can't. And so they move together very, very slowly. And so she is pinned very slowly, kind of like a bug trapped between two slides. And, just smushing her face until she is finally, something cracks. Which from my perspective was much more terrifying, but it was really kind of, it wasn't shot to its best effect, especially because later on, and it's in the script, and I think it's even in the final script, but I think it must have been lost for time. The two kids are also caught between the walls of glass that are slowly coming together, but ultimately manage to escape. But since we've seen Kalina get squished, we have the sense it's like, oh my God, these kids are now in the same pickle. But that's lost. So, oh well, too bad. It's not, there aren't a lot of opportunities to have someone caught between two walls of glass that are coming together. It's one of those situations where you don't get to see, you can't find too many opportunities for that kind of a scene. So, oh well, too bad.
Hey, someone was asking on the stream here who did the ghost sketches on the walls. That was a guy I hired. He was an illustrator in Vancouver, who was very good with characters, and we had him do some ideas and character sketches of those, and we had those blown up. And those runes that are on the glass, and those character sketches are actually they're applications that are applied onto the glass. They weren't actually etchings, but on the film it looked like they were frosted or they were etched. And yeah, that was quite a piece of work. Remember that, Dean? All those guys putting that stuff on the glass.
That was Ray, wasn't it? And Ray also worked on.
Was it Ray Lai?
The pages for the book as well. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. It's the same ones that were in the book.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you want to talk about the book? Because that was quite an amazing prop, I have to say.
It's wonderful looking.
There were 4 books made. One we had to cut in half. One had to be rigged for the glass to, I think the book is in there. She's using that to sort of try to keep the window, the glass apart. There was a huge thing about sound with the paper in the book. And we went through reams and reams of different paper, looking for a paper that the sound department didn't have an issue with. We had to find something that had its own frequency that they could tune out. And then I had 2 scenic painters work for a week, aging all of the pages before we even printed. And, a repeat on the cover of the floor and the way that all moves. Again, all of the etching and laser cutting that had to go into that. Yeah,
Hello, Ra.
Quite the book.
Hey, guys.
Hey.
Hi.
Wow.
Hello. Wonderful to meet you.
Thank you. I'm staying off camera until they open the salons here in Jersey.
You could end up looking like this, my God.
How is everybody? So great to reminisce.
It's good.
Great. Thanks for
Crew's all
joining.
back.
We were all just saying whenever the one of the most favorite lines from this entire film is yours about the lawyer splitting. Everyone, we did a live screening of that about 2 years ago here at the Frida Cinema. I got the biggest laugh out of the whole night.
And that movie genuinely terrified me. I think that was the first time I'm a horror movie buff, but that was the first time I've ever seen someone get split that way. That took me out at the premiere. When I was watching it at the premiere, I was like, wow. Because when you're filming stuff and you're doing it over and over again, like you're not really scared because half the time you're acting. So you're running from stuff that isn't there and you're, putting on for the scene. But when I actually saw it all pieced together, I was sitting in the theater like, this is genuinely a scary freaking flick. Like I was freaked out.
And guys, who had worked on those that practical effect for the splitting? Do you know?
Well, it was makeup effects for sure. They had created the body that was split in half, and as he slid down the glass, you saw what was inside. And
It's beautiful.
there was a lot of choreography there between makeup effects, the effects department. I mean, props was involved. We were, trying to get the timing of the glasses dropping and when to release the briefcase so it fell open and revealed the money all cut up. And there was probably 4 departments, all hands on. working with that,
Wow.
rehearsing it long before we shot it. There were so many things to work out.
Yeah, Bob Kurtzman from K&B Effects Group was the hands-on guy with a lot of the makeup work, and yeah, he's gone on to do some pretty. I think he's been doing what's it called, that show in Atlanta? There's something Dad. The
Walking Dead.
Walking Dead, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think he's been involved in that. He's done quite well, but he was the guy who did a lot of that. Do you remember him, Dean?
Yes.
Bob Kurtzman. He was a great guy.
Yeah.
Very talented.
I remember I tried to, when I was working on the score for the Jackal, that was sort of, Jackal was the character that freaked me out the most. I remember writing the big Jackal cues like in the middle of the night, just trying to try to scare myself. That's sort of like a goal I try to do. But how did Jackal get designed and all that? And
well, the designs for the characters, a lot of them came from K&B, from Bob. K&B is a company, Kurtzman, Nicotero, and Berger, and Bob really took the reins for 13 Ghosts, and I think he just applied a lot of his ideas to it. Him and Steve worked a lot of it out, as I remember. It's been 20 years now, and yeah, I mean, each ghost, as you saw, had to be very different from the other. So I don't know if they did any sketches, any drawings. I think early on we might have done some. And my art department might have done some ideas.
Did the ghosts? Do you guys remember if the ghosts did the ghosts have different filming techniques that Steve was using? Like I know the Jackal sort of comes at you. It seems like frames are missing and things.
He did, yeah.
Well, it was Gale. He had this whole technique about turning the camera on and off, so the camera had to ramp up or slow down as he was physically turning the camera on and off.
Yeah, Craig, how was your experience doing those scenes? You're the cool, scary ghost. You're the 50s jock. You got the Letterman and the baseball bat. How was that? You had a scene with Ra as well, attacking Matthew Lillard.
Yeah, all right. What can I add to this? I primarily, the person who stuck out to me the most when I was through doing this whole film was Howard Berger.
So I always imagine when it came back on, there was a guy that was like plugging things back in like this. Yeah.
Back then it was wires becoming unplugged. Now it's wireless becoming unplugged.
Yeah.
Well, let's see. I think are we live, Martin? Yes, we're back. Hello, YouTube. Okay, hello, YouTube. This is Cody with Nostalgic Nebula. We are here at the Frida Cinema doing our live stream with our special guests all throughout the country. We have Sean Hargreaves, we have Dean Eilertson, we have John Frizzell, we have Craig Oldnick, we have Logan Crow, and we have Ra Digga with us here today. A couple of them are on a little break right now since we had some technical difficulties. Thank you for those of you who stuck with us and are still here for our live stream. Hopefully that's all of you. I'll just take this moment once again, say thank you all for joining us. Hi, Craig, we're back online, just to let you know. And back to you, to the YouTube audience. My name's Cody with Nostalgic Nebula. As I said, this is the Frida Cinema. It is a nonprofit art house cinema in Orange County, California. You're not going to find a better place with the most diverse programming and the most diverse audience and staff. It's a really great place to be. If you're going to catch a film anywhere, catch it at the Frida Cinema. You're going to find some great deals. And you're going to watch indie movies, you're going to watch foreign, you're going to watch classics. This is the place to be. So if you can, please donate to our favorite nonprofit, the Frida Cinema. You can find the link down below in the info section. We really appreciate it. We'll probably get the films synced up starting once John gets back, and then we'll get the film going. But let's go ahead and get the conversation rolling again. Let's talk about maybe the ghosts. I'm sure this is one of the biggest questions that everybody has is, what are we know that on the DVD, they gave some origins for the ghosts. Did you write any origins originally for the ghosts? No?
I did not. I came up with the concept of the Black Zodiac and the signs of the Black Zodiac, and simply the names of the various figures, and of course the three figures for the winter of the Black Zodiac, which was the Jackal and the Juggernaut, and I forget what the third one was. The bad ghosts, and then the rest of them that made the tour. Because I figured there was going to be a 13th ghost, and then there were going to be 12 ghosts, and so I thought that the figure 12 immediately suggested the signs of a zodiac, and so I thought, gee, this is kind of the notion of hell having a zodiac, and these are the symbols of hell's sky. That was kind of a fruitful idea, and so working out the notion that these ghosts embodied the symbol of hell's zodiac, and then you have this kind of zodiacal figure on the floor of the mansion, and then each ghost representing that. I had not worked out I'm not sure who worked out the details, but in some sense, just the nature of in the same way that the zodiac in the night sky is suggestive of a history, I wanted the figures themselves, whether it's the Torn Prince or the Juggernaut or the Jackal, just the images themselves to be suggestive of a history. And they worked out their own histories, which is neat, but in some ways it's also interesting to let audiences work out their own history, their own past for the characters. That would have been okay too. But I mean, I simply like the concept of the Black Zodiac, and I take full credit for it because it's all mine.
And it all belongs to you. And speaking of backgrounds and such, it's really cool watching the opening scene. I think it's the only scene that Matthew Lillard and F. Murray Abraham have, for so long. But I love seeing their relationship. It's such a, what's it called? It's technical, Cyrus, he's holding the change purse, so he's got control of Dennis. But I just love Dennis jokes about Kalina, that she should just start throwing red blood on old ladies' furs, and it cracks up Cyrus. And I thought that's such an interesting relationship.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Something that Rob was bringing it up earlier off the air about, either sequels or prequels. I would love to see the stories or read about them of Cyrus and his sidekick catching the ghost, because that's pretty interesting. And then we get to learn about the backgrounds, like Craig's Torn Prince, and
I mean, again, it's like there's so much story in the history of the seeking out and the catching of the ghosts, and it's just sort of say that there's a whole almost epic in the search for the ghosts, and it's one of those interesting notions, because in some way the most interesting character in the movie is barely on screen, and that's Cyrus and his quest to catch these ghosts and build this house, and he's squandered his family fortune for this goal of his to sort of, he's this sort of Dante-esque character who's prepared to sacrifice everything for knowledge, this to open up hell's eye and see the past and the future, and essentially to have this kind of godlike knowledge, and it's screwed as a result. Lose it, he risks everything and loses everything. So
he definitely gets his come up. And so, hello everybody, we have John Frizzell back with us.
Hey, everybody.
So I guess if you've got the movie on pause, we'll go ahead and get it rolling again. I'll count us down. I'm still at about the 42 minute and I'm at about 23 seconds. So if you're around that area, you should be okay. You know, we're not going exactly scene by scene. So we'll go ahead and count down in 3, 2, 1, hit play. And we can continue our conversation back again. John, you pulled out a really cool instrument. They didn't get to see it off the air. Could you show us again?
Yeah, this is a water phone, and it's signed by the maker, which Richard Waters. Sorry, it's made in 1993. This one, I don't know how many there are, but this is the sound you get with a bow on it. And I think I remember using this a few times in the score, so it's permeating certain things. I think I did some things with it in this score where I actually made rhythms out of it and used it more tapping, and I actually took those longer sounds and chopped it up. I think that's how I did the jackal. Now I'm remembering. Yeah, I made a screeching sound like that, and then I sliced the audio. It's sort of the early days of digital audio, and sliced the audio into these very sort of jagged rhythmic pulses, and that's part of the big sound of what the score to the jackal is, with that mixed with the orchestra. But yeah, this was sort of a key part, a key toy in doing it. I thought the fans would kind of dig seeing this.
What's it called again?
It's called a water phone. I mean,
Water phone. Okay.
but as I say, you know, it's signed. The maker is Richard Waters, and I had always thought, because you can put water in it, and when you turn it, it makes like a phasing sound when you play it.
Yeah.
And but I don't know if it's called a water phone because of the Richard Waters who made this one, or because of putting water in it. That's a good question. And we were saying earlier that this is probably goes back to scores from the 60s. I'm guessing it's in Jerry Goldsmith's work that you can find examples of it as well. But
Very
a classic good horror sound, you know, with that very microtonal ambient creepiness, you know, that doesn't really sit in one place. You can't really get how instruments that generated sounds like this weren't really conceived of till probably after World War II.
Yeah, it kind of shifts. It kind of makes you shift in your seat. You know, it's kind of a little odd.
Yeah, it's and
Wow,
you can get some very delicate sounds.
it's amazing.
I think I also remember some times in this score where you would start with the violins, you would hear the violins on a note, and then it would morph from the violins into the water phone, and so it would go from sort of a pleasing sound into a very dissonant, disgusting, you know, unnerving sound. And that's one of the things that I find really fun to do in scores, is to sort of lull you in with something that might be almost on the verge of pretty, and then it morphs into something that's just really getting you disturbed.
Yeah.
Mentally scar everybody. That's the goal.
That's excellent. It sounds creepy, and it looks like some creepy alien thing that I don't want anywhere near me.
Yeah. I have one more. Well, what else do I have around? I don't have any of the, you know, there was a lot of interesting electronic instruments on that score, and I don't have them anymore. I sold them all. There was a huge rack of stuff, but it's not around here.
So should I ask if the audience wants to ask any questions on the stream?
Certainly. Audience members, if you're at home right now and you've got questions for the filmmakers of 13 Ghosts, please submit them right now. We're monitoring the chat section right now on YouTube, so please submit your questions. Ooh. And Craig, you had a lot of makeup. What was that process like, getting ready for each shoot every day?
Well, honestly, this was and still is like one of the most fun jobs I've ever had. It was, I was young, we didn't have to learn any lines, and you were wearing the coolest makeup you've ever, you know, put on, the best Halloween costume ever, and you were getting paid to just hang out and, you know, be a ghost. It was amazing. I think it was about 2 hours to put on the makeup, maybe. and then maybe another hour and a half to get off, something like that. My memory is not that great. I'm impressed by you guys remembering all these facts. But yeah, it's like one of those dream fun jobs. It's a blast.
That's excellent. I mean, I was telling the guys earlier offline that so many times throughout even every week I'll see a post on Facebook in some horror group about reminiscing about 13 Ghosts, and I'll tell you, I've seen a lot of women say that you were their ghostly crush when they grew up watching this movie. You were the hunk of the ghosts.
Oh yeah, that's funny. Hunky ghost. Why not?
Hunky ghost.
Well, just
Now,
every day going to work and having.
You remember a 13 Ghosts? What was that?
I say just every day going to work on set, and it wasn't the normal sort of environment. You'd have 13 ghosts hanging around, sitting and waiting, doing rehearsals. It sort of in a surreal way, it became this normal thing to do every day. But looking just at the characters themselves in the film right now, it just brings back so many memories of, can you imagine? 20 years ago, I don't even think we had cell phones. I can just imagine somebody sitting there texting away, wearing all their makeup. It would be quite funny.
That's right.
I mean, the weirdest thing about being on set when you have people in makeup is that they don't see their makeup, but you see their makeup, and they'll come up to you and you look at them, and it's kind of jarring. It's like, oh, hello. I mean, I was standing there one day on set, and I turned, and the Juggernaut was there, and I'm 6'4", and he was like, I think he was 6'10", and
wow,
it was just gigantic man, with this horrific makeup on, and it's, you're in fantasy, but you look up and you're like, I'm a little scared right now. It's just very unnerving,
And that was actor John DeSantis, I believe.
That's right, yeah.
I just put in the chat that the day that I had to shoot with him and Matthew was my hardest day on set, and I see somebody ask why. Well, on this day, this was the day that Matthew and I we had to do that whole, like, me direct him out of the room. And I believe, like, he's the one that's like hitting him with the bat, right? I know we going 20 years back, making sure my memory's okay. So I got the right go. So okay, that day, so I had to. I guess we were kind of getting. This was probably like, we had gone through the scenes where we're going down the hall, we're analyzing ghosts, but I think on this day we were probably just kind of getting all like caught up in the whole action of it, and we were getting frustrated with each other, me and Matthew, and it was like, left foot forward, no right, no go, up down, like we're trying to figure out, like we're reading we're trying to deliver the lines, we're trying to deliver that emotion, we're trying to technically make sense, because now that we're in the room and we have to, figure out, like, I'm telling them to go left, but it's really like, now that we're in the room, it's really right. And I'm saying go up, but it's really down. So we were just kind of getting all turned around, and I think we had to take like a timeout to just kind of reel it back in, like, okay. And at some point, like by the very end of it, I think it was just like, okay, left, right, go, done. But we were trying to follow that, follow the script line for line, but I guess, it was getting hard to deliver it and direct him. And mind you, the house and these walls and everything is still moving everywhere. So it was like, wait, okay, if I'm like 2 seconds too late, it's really gonna like slam on his arm or something. So it was getting, it was intense for me. Mind you, this 13 Ghosts was my introduction to acting ever. Like, I've never been in a movie prior to 13 Ghosts.
No way.
Not a coach, not a drama class, anything.
Wow.
So
Amazing.
in the beginning, I kind of hid behind the rest of the cast. And, there were a lot of scenes in the beginning where I would be quiet, where you have Matthew and Tony debating whether or not we're going in the basement. And Shannon and I are just standing there quiet looking up. So day one goes by. I'm like, whew, that was easy. I think I can get through this. But on this day, it was like, okay, I gotta, just figure this out. But we were pretty far gone, and at that point in the movie, by then, Matthew was a great help, because he definitely like kind of helped me overcome my green, my greenness. And he would do this cool thing with me, like when they're doing the rolling sound speed, he's like, get pumped, you pumped? I'm like, yeah, pump. He's like, get pumped, I'm pumped, yeah. And then it's like, and action, and then we gotta like take off running down the hall and stuff. So he was really great with like helping me get into character in between the scenes. So that I appreciated that.
That's awesome.
That's such a great story. I know I'm going to be sharing that for times to come whenever people talk about 13 Ghosts, because that's one of those things that people love tuning into this kind of thing, to hear those kinds of stories that you might not have heard on DVD commentaries or anything. We have one question from the YouTube feed asking, was there anything any of you guys wanted to be in the film that didn't quite make it, or it didn't work out quite the way you needed to? Maybe you needed to rewrite a scene or change the way you were going to be doing the sets or anything like that? And
are you asking me?
Oh, open to all of you. Open to all of you.
Well, I'm about to say I got one. I was originally supposed to die. I was supposed to be Kalina getting smashed in the wall, and then one day I just said, you know what? Let me just take a shot in the dark here, and I approached Stephen Beck. I'm like, I was just wondering, can I live?
And you get the last line of the movie, don't you?
He was like, you know what? He said I was just, having a conversation with Joel about it. Let me let me get back to you. And it took him about a week, and he came back and he said, you know what? I think we're gonna let you live. I think you're gonna be a fan favorite, and it might do too much to the audience for you to go. So I ended up living, but originally I was supposed to die.
Yeah, because as the script was originally designed, your character, who was sort of the nanny, was actually the bad guy. She was actually the one who was in cahoots with Cyrus. And so that was why that character was the one who died between the glass. And so it made sense now for Kalina, who is now the bad guy, to get squished, and for you to end up living. So we're all happy that your character survived, because she was a great character. Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Look at me learning something new every day. I had no idea I was going to be a bad guy.
Yeah. And so casting you changed the whole character of who that person was. They shifted the bad guy character to Kalina. She was the bad guy. So she's the one who deserved to get squished, and you were the one who now deserved to survive. So.
Oh, okay. Oh, and here I thought I just did a fantastic job acting.
Well,
and they just couldn't
and that is another reason why you deserve to live, because the good actors always deserve to survive.
That's right. That's awesome.
Have any of you guys seen were there any toys based off of 13 Ghosts? Because I know I've seen, you see action figures for all sorts of things, Hellraiser, and everyone's collecting them all.
It's
I would
shocking
think that people would be clamoring for
really needs to be.
It's shocking that there never were, but so far as I know, there never were any ghost, 13 Ghosts action figures.
NECA, you need to get on top of that. We'll see you at Comic-Con 2021.
Yeah.
Let's see, we have another YouTuber asking, Was there any, so many horror movies have a curse associated with them, The Exorcist, Poltergeist. Was there any 13 Ghosts curse, or do any of you have your own ghostly experience?
Always believed in ghosts.
There you go. There's your answer, YouTuber. They may be out there. We want to believe.
I believe I believe all of the cast are still here with us.
Yeah.
So we're in the green.
Yeah,
That's right.
thankfully none, right?
Yeah. Yes, we rescued all of the ghosts, so it's a pro ghost movie.
It's a pretty nice ending. Pretty nice ending.
Yeah.
And now, oh, here we go. He's going to be popping up on the screen pretty soon. We have Eric Olson with us. Let's see. His audio will be coming on in just a minute.
Cody, excuse me. I'll be back in a couple of minutes. I have to get the dog.
Sure thing, no problem.
Yeah, Neal, this is a great story. It just keeps firing on all cylinders. Just go, go, go.
Yeah.
Love it.
Hello, Eric.
Oh, hello. I'm joining late.
No problem at all. This conversation is still going hot right now. Let's see. 13 Ghosts. Let's talk about when it fell into your lap, or when it gets started. How did
me?
Yeah,
me?
Yeah.
Well, hey everybody. I haven't seen. Let me just change my
configuration.
See everybody. Okay, perfect. Yeah, no. Hey. I think the only people I really know in here are John Frizzell, who's not there right now.
He'll be right back.
And then Neal. How you doing, Neal?
Hello.
It's been a long time.
Yeah.
I was a baby. I was a little baby when I think I had been working at Silver Pictures, Dark Castle for about probably 6 months or something when we started, or maybe even less when we started this process. And I don't even remember if I was in the original pitch when you pitched us, Neal, with Susan.
Right. Who later went on to marry?
Yeah, Susan Downey.
Yeah, it's Susan Downey.
She was Susan Levine.
Yeah.
I was when she was my boss.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I think I don't remember exactly the sequence of events, but I know that I went back in and looked at my files earlier today, and there are so many documents on this project. So
I think we lost him.
Has he gone?
Froze.
He's frozen, or else he's just being very still.
Very dramatic. You Hollywood type.
It's a dramatic pause.
Well, that's all right. We'll get him back on here in just a moment.
Gosh.
But this.
There he's back. He's back.
There we go. Hello.
You froze for a moment.
If I freeze for a bunch of times, I'll try another method of doing this.
Wait.
Sorry. That might happen. If that happens again, I'll log back in a different way.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, no, I was going to say that there are so many notes on this project. We had it was a co-production with Columbia and Warner Brothers, and also we had the William Castle's kind of group. We had Terry Castle, who was William Castle's daughter, and all these people were giving notes, and there was so many opinions, and just making everybody happy was kind of a crazy nightmare. Yeah. And I remember, but we ended up, getting that first few drafts from Neal, and then, right, I think you said earlier we had a couple other writers come in, and then we went back to you, writer, and
then we went. Then you got rid of me again. Came in with another writer to finally finished it. It is interesting that the take that I initially pitched completely different from what we ultimately went with, which came really from Joel Silver. And I pitched a very different take on the whole thing, which was the idea that Cyrus, in order to collect a ghost, had to actually physically remove, because it's like locations are haunted. So in order to get the ghost out of a location, you actually had to physically remove the place that's haunted. And so he would so when you went to the place, it's not a glass cube. It's like he has physically removed, like there's a lighthouse is jutting out of one part of the place, and there was like a haunted dungeon. He physically removed the dungeon and moved the dungeon there. So the whole castle, the whole mansion is literally full of environments that he's physically chopped out of places and moved en masse and installed in his gigantic mansion. So it's full of these places that he's removed in order to get the ghosts that were located in those places. Yeah. So which
that happened a lot with Joel. That happened a lot. We would always bring him. We would we'd read great scripts, samples of writers that we liked, and then we would hear a good take, and then we would go tell Joel about it, and he would say, "That's great, but let's change everything."
Yeah. And that's exactly what happened when I came in and met him and say, "Well, this is the take." He says, "Nah, I don't like it." And then he pitched his own take, which had to do with the Rose Center and he wanted to build this giant glass house and this and that. And so, "You're going to take notes?" I said, "No, I got it. I understand exactly what to say." And then I went back to my hotel and I wrote up a whole new treatment based on what he said and gave it to him the next day. I said, "Okay, fine, I'll do it. All right, write that." And in a sense, that's one of the great things about Joel, even though he was a terrifying figure who would come in with a whole entourage of people and go out with a whole entourage of people would follow after him. But he would act, unlike a lot of people in Hollywood, he had no problem telling you exactly what he thought. So you didn't have to wade through all that kind of happy crap talk with Joel. He would just say, "Okay, great, do it," or "No, hate it, don't do it." And it's like, "Okay, fine, great. That's all I need to know. You hate it, I won't do it. You love it, I'll do it. Fine." And then I would just go, and I wouldn't do the stuff that he hated, and I would do the stuff that he liked. And so you know exactly where you are. You always knew exactly where you were with Joel. And it cut through so much crap that you always had to deal with so many other people in Hollywood, where it's like, I love it, don't do it.
I totally agree. I mean, this was my first film with Joel of many. And
hey, John.
Hey, how are you, man? Good to see you.
Dude, this is my quarantine look.
You know, I actually
this is my quarantine look. I got you beat.
I kind of like cleaned it up a couple days ago. But yeah, I was kind of getting there too. But yeah, it was. I remember this was my first film with Joel, and I waited quite a while for Joel to come in, and Joel came in, and it was supposed to be the spotting session, and Joel said, "So pick up your baton at the first frame and put it down at the last." And I guess I go, okay, I guess that means write score for the whole film, and it ended up being pretty much that. But like you're saying, Neal, is that it's so clear when you're working with Joel, is a cue's working, a cue's not, music's working, it's not. You just know, and that is so valuable. There's nothing like the sort of on the fence note you get where I'm like, do I rewrite it? Do I start again? Is it a small change? Is it a big change? And clarity when you're working is just so incredibly valuable, and you just know right where you are.
Yeah.
Yeah, he loved to say that. He said that I heard him all the time in the editing room with the composer. He would say, "Pick up your baton and put it down at the end."
Yeah.
Oh man, that's funny. Yeah, but I remember that meeting, Neal, where you said where you said, "I don't need to take notes." I think I remember that meeting.
Yeah, no, that was the only note. It was pick up your baton at the first frame, put it down at the last. That was this. Yeah. But then we did work. We really, as we started to get the score going, as I'm sure with everybody else involved, as we went in, then Joel's influence and ideas, I would write something, and I remember the first time he heard the idea for the jackal, and I don't even think it was even on the jackal. I think Joel said, "Hey, let's move that over there and put it on the jackal," and all of a sudden the scene came to life, and now we had a whole big idea that grew into something else. And so it was a very interactive and really fun process.
No, he's really, I mean, he's a really hard ass guy, but he has good ideas, and he is, he knows, unlike so many producers who kind of want to be your friend in a weird sort of way. He doesn't give a shit whether he's your friend or not. He wants you to do what he wants you to do his thing. And it's like he knows what he wants. And so just kind of, this is what I want. Go do it. Go do it. And then he moves on to something else. And so long as you are able to kind of give him what he wants, it's fine. And that's all there is. And it's really good to work with guys like that, guys who are smart, confident, are able to do things, get things done. They know what they want. Go do here's what I want. Go do it. Okay, fine. Gotcha. Clear. Go do it. And that was what, and I've worked with a few people like that over the years, and it's really, there's clarity to it. Of course, in the end, I got kicked off twice, but what are you going to do? I mean, in a sense, a lot of that happened. I mean, it happened after John Beck came on. And again, I don't want to knock John Beck. People have different processes. And I mean, there are people, there are directors whose process is, let's try this, let's try that, let's try this, let's try that. And the thing is, there are people who have to see it on the page before they know whether or not it works. I mean, there's that great scene in Singing in the Rain where it's like they describe this huge dance number to the producers as, I don't know, I can't visualize, I'd have to see it. It's like there are people who need to see it before they can really get it. And that's why you end up with long development processes. And I think that's why 13 Ghosts ended up having such a very long development process. I mean, after I left the first time, they brought in 2 additional writers who ended up not being credited, who worked on that script for a long time. And then I came back and worked on it again. And then I left and they brought in another writer who worked on it. And then finally they ended up with a script that they could shoot. But yeah.
It's not, funnily enough, it's not really that, the process wasn't that long compared to most movies.
Yeah, many movies that never get made and some that do, but yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure, and you probably know better than I do, I know that 13 Ghosts was based on a castle movie, and House on Haunted Hill was. I don't think they ever made any more movies based off castle films. Am I wrong?
No, yeah, we tried.
Ghost Ship?
No, Ghost Ship is a spec.
Oh, okay.
We tried. We developed Macabre, The Tingler. I Saw What You Did. So we developed a bunch of them, but we never got around.
Yeah, nothing ever came to fruition. Because I know Dark Castle made a whole bunch of other movies, and some of them were pretty good, but they never went back. They could never bring any of. I mean, some of them never really deserved to be made, but it's challenging to find a way through. I think. Oh, you froze again.
And speaking of William Castle and the Tingler, I just wanted to remind everybody at home, this is Cody with Nostalgic Nebula. We're over at the Frida Cinema doing our live broadcast with all our special guests here. We are raising donations for the Frida Cinema, our favorite nonprofit where we operate and do most of our events in Orange County. So go down to the link and you can help this place, this wonderful art house cinema, stay open. And it wasn't too long ago, I think it was just last year. Oh no, we lost Eric because this was part of the story for what he had mentioned about the Tingler. We have a horror movie film festival that happens here annually, the Horrible Imaginings Film Festival, and they did a really fun thing the last time around. They screened the Tingler, and they outfitted several of the seats with servos. Oh, here we go. I'll recap for Eric, but yeah, they outfitted the seats with servos so that it was just like in the old days with William Castle, with all of his little gimmicks. So whenever the Tingler would come, the seats would start vibrating. Hey, Eric, we got you back.
Tingler doesn't sound like a horror movie to me. It sounds like something used for something else, but I'm not going to get into
Yeah.
Sorry. Sorry, guys. Yeah, this should be better. I shouldn't freeze anymore.
No,
Okay.
no, looks good. Looks good.
Wait, yeah, we had Robert. Did you hear what I said about Robert Zemeckis?
No, what about Robert Zemeckis?
We had him attached to Macabre, I think, at one point. And he was going to direct that. We developed that a whole bunch, and he wanted to make it a musical. Yeah. So we did some like crazy stuff, developing William Castle remakes, and we could never get any off the ground. And and then some other like Vincent Price, the House of Wax came along, and Ghost Ship was a spec script that we got. They kind of fit into the model, and so we were always trying. I had Guillermo del Toro really wanted to direct Tingler, as an example. He had a really cool idea, but I really tried to push that through. And at the time, he hadn't finished Blade 2 yet, and people above me were like, "Who's this guy, Guillermo del Toro? I don't know. I don't know about him."
Yeah.
Powers that be.
Yeah.
That was something that could have been. Let's get that rolling again.
Yeah. Guillermo del Toro's The Tingler would have been great.
Yeah, would have been
amazing.
wonderful. Yeah, Jesus. Yeah, could have wired, and in the end, you could have wired up the seats. Would have been great too.
I mean, we always wanted to do that kind of stuff. For House of Wax, we developed it in 3D at first, and we wrote it into the script with all kind of gags, things coming at the screen and stuff. And yeah, just like you did in your script, where the glasses on and take the glasses off. Like, we always want to try to do that stuff, but we never could. It was always about theaters and technology, and nowadays it's digitally a lot more.
Yeah, and I mean, see, that's a shame, because now everyone, there's this craving for 3D properties. See, it kind of, it's just the time to. You're frozen again, Eric. Oh no, you're not. We were just still.
Just listening.
Yeah, now there seems to be a hunger for 3D projects, and now it's kind of maybe the two things just don't intersect. That's weird.
Yeah, I wanted to say something to Sean and Dean. Like, watching this movie again, I have it over here on my screen here, watching it again, and it is so beautiful. This movie, like all the detail, and I just forgot. I haven't seen this movie in so long, and it is so nice, so beautiful looking. All the detail and everything is so cool, like, so great work.
Thanks. Yeah, I mean, the Gail Tattersall, the DP, did a beautiful job lighting that. He worked very hard and to make it look really good. I think the whole team just clicked on that, didn't we? Really?
Yeah, it's a fantastic environment for a horror movie.
I have to imagine there was some heartache when you guys had to strike that set.
Yeah, it was. Well, it was funny. It's always a heartache when you strike a set. It's great when you design a set, then you walk on it into the set, and you just designed it, and there you are in it. And then it's always a heartache when you have to destroy it, but you want to make sure you got photographs of it. It is funny though, because I get at least a few times a year, I get emails about, hey, I'm building a house. Do you have the plans for the 13 Ghosts house? Because I want to do something very similar to it. Very, very interesting. I'm like, I can't give you that. It's not. I don't have the rights to it, even though I designed it. But I just can't imagine someone building a real house like that. It's pretty. I guess it's semi-practical, but yeah, it's pretty crazy. I mean, people have wanted so many times plans for that house.
Wow.
And in fact, when we struck the set, I did a commercial a few years after up in Vancouver, and I went into a guy I'd worked with. He was a key grip on 13 Ghosts, and I went into his apartment. We're having a few drinks, and I went into his apartment, and the whole wall had it had parts of the glass house that he'd rescued during the striking of the set, and he'd stuck them and screwed them into the wall of the house.
Wow.
And I thought, wow, that's really taking it to another level. So that was very interesting. And then I talked to him a few years ago on Star Trek, and he said, oh yeah, I had to, when I sold that place, I just left all that stuff up there. He says, I don't know if they took it down, if they kept it, or if that was part of something they liked when they bought the house. So that was an interesting story.
It was a selling point.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
No, remember the last day of filming? Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead. What were you saying?
No, the last day of filming was the day we blew up the house and destroyed it. And there were effects that rigged in the sand mortars and everything else. That house was not going to survive this effect, and all cameras were rolling. And I remember Steve back after the smoke had sort of cleared and the dust was settling. And it was the saddest thing to see him. He's looking at this set and he knows there's no take two. They've just destroyed the entire set. And he just put the microphone on top of the monitor and said, "I think that's a wrap." And he turned and walked away. He didn't shake hands. He didn't do anything. I think he was so destroyed at that point.
Yeah. Probably exhausted and destroyed. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my! I remember my first day when I was there. I came in pre-production, and I visited. And I remember walking onto the set, and I just had this overwhelming feeling that I was gonna walk into a glass wall and break my nose. Like that was I was like walking around like this, like making that's what I remember. So I don't know how practical it would be for someone to actually live in a house like that, but
yeah.
Well, that's why you have the lettering on the wall.
I think it might have been pre-lettering when I was there. I think the lettering might not have been there when I was there.
I'm not sure exactly what the lettering said on your guys' walls, but when I made this, I had to put up Harry Potter spells on this window.
Oh wow, that's amazing. Is that an applique on that glass? It's not actually painted on there, is it?
No, yeah, it's just lettering, just that I slapped on. Yeah.
Yeah, nice.
Eric, I can't remember. Did you come up to Seattle when we recorded the score?
No, that would have been amazing. No, but I didn't.
Dan was up there. We were talking. I was having some fond memories of Dan. How much I love Dan.
He was up there for the score of that. Really? Were you guys doing two scores at once? Maybe you were in Exit Wounds 2 or something?
No, I didn't work on Exit Wounds. Yeah. I think he just came up. Yeah, he came up that must have been right in between.
Yeah, got it. Yeah, because it was funny because we were so busy. We were doing 3 movies at once. That's why I was like a 22-year-old kid, and they sent me up to Canada. And while Dan was doing Exit Wounds in Toronto, and in Toronto, and Susan was focusing more on Swordfish, which was shooting in LA.
Right. I don't think I met Susan until even on 13 Ghosts. I think I met her on Ghost Ship.
Okay. Yeah.
Susan Downey was part of the, what was Susan Levine? Yeah, Susan Levine was part of the team back on this.
Yeah, and she's a wonderful girl, by the way, wonderful woman, by the way. So it was great.
Absolutely. No, Susan was a big part of when we worked on Ghost Ship. Was really influential and huge part of the team in on that film for score. Yeah. She was with us in England on the score on that.
Yeah. Too bad we haven't worked together. I keep working with your protege.
Oh, with Freddie.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
Frederick Wiedmann, who's a very fine young composer who started off with me. Not on. I'm trying to think which was the first film. What was the 3D one you guys did? The one.
I think we did a 3D one.
No. There was something.
There
was the one with. What was the one with the multiple endings?
Oh, Return to House on Haunted Hill.
Yes, yeah.
The sequel to House on Haunted Hill.
That's
yeah,
right. It had multiple endings.
Yeah. But someone asked on the online if anybody has any of the props, and I was going to say I have a pair of the glasses still somewhere.
Excellent.
Oh wow.
Yeah. When they had the batteries. I hope I took the batteries out. They didn't corrode, but like they still work. But they were charged by like AAA batteries, on the sides, and yeah, they were really, really beautiful. Dean, did you make those?
Yeah, they were made.
Beautiful.
Yeah, they were great.
And Dean, you were pointing out to me on the email that there's a wickedprops.com where somebody has a lot of props, including, I think they have Craig's costume.
He is somebody I know. His name's Wesley, and he has dedicated the whole basement of his house. It's, forget the notion of man cave. He has brought in scenic carpenters. He has created an environment. And over the years, he has collected not only the screen use costumes and how he's gotten his hand on some of the props, but he has recreated every one of the ghosts.
Wow.
And yeah, it's pretty amazing. He's probably on here watching us right now. Maybe oh, there he is.
Good for you.
Yeah, he finally
WikiProps.com.
made it. He just signed on.
And Craig, all of the ghosts really perform so well, bringing out their characters. Neal was saying, that the backstories are kind of implied, but how did you prepare for your character, being a ghost,
Well, thanks for thinking that I prepared for this. Honestly, this was, like I said, just you had the makeup on and you were just playing the image, and doing whatever Steve needed and whatever Neal had written. It was just playing. I wasn't doing any kind of backstory really. It wasn't necessary. It was all so visual.
Yeah.
Yeah, the backstories. I think we created those for the DVD. I think we had Rich to Video, who was the last. I think he was the last writer on board. Kind of worked all those up, and we had F. Murray Abraham kind of perform them. It was like a DVD extra. Now I think we just made, just made them up.
Yeah, and my sense is that these were they were iconic. They were mythic ideas, and so they weren't necessarily grounded in literal backstories. Didn't have to be. That is the visual image of these beings and what they represented in terms of the zodiacal figures. I didn't necessarily want to ground them in literal historical events. That is, who the breaker was as in life didn't necessarily correspond to what the juggernaut was as an iconic ghostly figure. It's just he's this gigantic murderous ghost that makes him the juggernaut. And
right. I think you're right. Like that was the right instinct for the movie, for sure. I just think like back then everyone at Warner Brothers, everybody always just wanted to keep putting content on the DVD. DVD was relatively new as and they were like, what can you do? Let's put some cool content in. And,
and it was cool. I mean, it's awesome because you want to kind of dig in deeper, and also all that stuff is interesting.
Yeah. And then James Gunn, by the way, like, I don't know if people know this, but James Gunn also contributed a little bit of writing. He might have written that line that everyone seems to love, that the lawyers split.
Yeah. And that is a super line.
Yeah. James Gunn was, of Guardians of the Galaxy, and everybody knows who he is, right? But it's like a writer that Warner Brothers really liked, as a kind of a horror comedy guy, and he came in and added some, like, basically just did a bunch of comedy lines, essentially. But yeah, it's an interesting cast of crew.
And I know there was another.
There's Craig's display. He's got the whole thing out there. Oh.
Yeah, and I know there was another writer also apart from the video.
Yeah, I think Todd Alcott. He's the one who came in for you.
Yeah,
I think he was we were working with him on a Wonder Woman script at the time, and then he came in and did some stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I know all of the writers who came in and worked on it are good people. I know Richard DeVito is a good guy. They're all good guys, but I just think it was a kind of a development struggle, and it's part of that process to try to kind of the notes, which was just throwing a bunch of ideas and stuff, because I know, like, one of the notes from Beck's script, again, it's almost 20 years, the notion that he wanted a scene where you had the house on the other side of a lake and some kind of a pedestal, and someone was standing at the pedestal, and at the pedestal, whoever it was did something that sealed the house. And I thought, well, that's kind of interesting, but if the whole idea is someone is at this pedestal sealing the house, how does he then get inside the house? And if you then establish that there's a path from the pedestal to inside the house, aren't you then setting up that there's a way from inside the house to wherever the pedestal is? And it's like he was thinking in terms of an image that was a cool image, but what does it have to do with anything? And the answer is nothing.
Right.
And ultimately, it never made it to the movie. And but it's a note, and you're getting a note from the director. So in some sense, you're supposed to respect it, and you're supposed to try to make it work. But he's not thinking in terms of how that shakes down through the story, and it becomes as a writer who has to think about that stuff, which he's only thinking about a neat image, and not necessarily thinking about how that shakes through the story.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was we were basically a greenlit movie, essentially from the moment you were hired. I mean, we intended to make it. At least it felt like it. So it was all. It seems like it was a pretty rushed process. It was like, get scripts. Okay, this isn't working. We bring out a director. He'll add. He wants his guy in or whatever, and his changes, and then go back to you, and then back to somebody else, and throw into the wall.
Yeah, and in some ways, and it's not saying anything against Richard Beck, but I think it would generally be a more efficient process to get your director on as early as you can. Because then because bringing the script almost to completion and then bringing the director in, whoever the director is, he is going to want to make the movie his, and that process is going to have the biggest impact on the script, because however close to being complete everyone else thinks it is, the director is going to want to take that and make it into his movie. And that's going to be an extensive process. So if you start at the beginning, let the director and Joel or whoever the producer is, let them hash their stuff out. And then once they're in agreement, then the writer can go to work. I think it's a more efficient process from my perspective.
Yeah. I agree. Well, we didn't do it that way at Silver.
And you know what? Almost virtually no one does it that way. And
we basically it was hey, we have a green light. Okay, now we need a script. Now.
And now we've got a script. Now we need a director.
Is it the saying ready, shoot, aim? I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or just shoot, ready, aim.
Yeah. You can organize them anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what it was. We were prolific though. That was the I guess.
Yeah.
And Sean, we have a question. Were there any inspirations for the production design? Were there any artists that you drew from, or how'd you come about designing the house and all the facets?
There wasn't any particular personal people I can point to. I mean, I love architecture, so I think it just basically evolved from the cells, from the cubes of where the ghosts were contained, and I just kind of grew out from cubes and boxes, and working with those shapes, and making a house out of that. I mean, there wasn't really. I mean, everyone's familiar with the house now. I mean, there wasn't anything that was out there then or really now that I could pull from for inspiration. I just have a general. I have a general love for architecture, and I just had fun designing it. It was great fun, and basically, off what Joel Silver asked, which was, there's a glass house, and go from there. So pretty much, I didn't go through many iterations of different ideas. I basically had this cubist idea in my head and ran with it, and everyone went for it first off. It wasn't like I did an idea and it was rejected, and I did a completely different view and different style, and it was accepted or whatever. And it just it kind of started and grew from the initial glass cubes.
Sean, you must, I don't remember this, so, but I'm assuming you must have worked with Steve in some commercials, right?
Yeah.
That's how you came into this?
Yeah, well, I've been a concept artist. I started as a concept artist, and I'm back doing concept art. And I got hired at George Lucas's Industrial Light and Magic to do a series of commercials. And Steve Beck ended up he was the director of those commercials. So he hired me, and that's how I met him and started working with him. And then after a few years, I think it was 2 years, he got the script, the offer for 13 Ghosts, and brought me with him. So we went from there.
Did you do Ghost Ship as well?
I did not. No, I was surprised actually.
Oh, that was Grace. That's Grace, right? Yeah.
Yeah, Grace, and he's great. I would love to have done it. I would love to have gone to Australia and done that, but it didn't happen, you know. But I actually haven't seen Ghost Ship. I don't even know if it's available. Did you guys? You all you guys worked on that?
I did not.
I did.
Who did?
I did.
Yeah.
Who's that? Dean?
Frizzell. I did.
Oh, John. Yeah.
I did
I
not.
didn't really work on it. I had gotten promoted, so I had my own projects by that point. I think I was focused on House of Wax when that movie was in prep.
I tell you, if you look at any list of the top horror movie scenes that's compiled, you know, throughout the internet, Ghost Ship is going to be featured on that, with that scene with everyone getting chopped in half.
Oh, the beginning with the slice, the big slice, it was called.
Yeah.
Oh,
exactly.
yeah, amazing.
Yeah, and then, you know, that was I'm sort of switching that for a minute. That was a lot of really great time working with Joel on that, because we incorporated, we had the song Senza Fine, which was a favorite of Joel's, and Monica Mancini, Henry Mancini's daughter, sang it. And then going between her incredibly beautiful voice and then to this unbelievably violent ripping of all these people dancing with this cable slicing across the deck. That was just horror fun all the way. You know, you don't get to do a 180 much bigger than that. So
yeah, right. And the same, but I think we were inspired. We did the same thing that Neal created with the, you know, the pause, right? The pause of the you don't know what's happened. He's been sliced in half, and you wait a second, and then they fall. I think we did the same thing with that. We're like
with the captain, because the captain does that. He kind of pauses, and the score like held for a second.
Yeah.
And then he goes, you know.
Yeah, and that was just so great. That like the macabre tension of that moment is fantastic.
That's classic. And John, has anyone ever approached you for re-releasing the soundtrack of 13 Ghosts? I mean, Waxworks, if you're listening, get on top of this.
Well, let's see. Are they? Let me look right now. Are they still out there? Let me see. Let's go to the iTunes store.
Well, I got the title track. Works for me.
Yeah, right.
The end credits song.
That's right.
Let's do it. Let's shoot a video. Let's just rebuild a whole new glass house so I can shoot the video.
And someone apparently has all the ghosts, so
Oh yeah, it's right here. Yeah, you can get it right now. Everybody listening, go ahead.
Oh wow. Now I'm inspired to actually shoot a video. If I wonder if I could do that, I probably would have to. That would probably be a licensing nightmare, though,
yeah,
right?
I think so.
To take clips from the movie and try to piece together like a lyric video or something.
Was that song, I don't remember, was that song written for the movie? Did you do that for the movie?
Yes.
Yeah.
No, it literally, I got a call like very late at night from Stephen Beck about doing the song, and he needed it by the next day.
I remember that, because I had heard that was going down and how quickly it was going down, and I remember that was all occurring.
Yep, he needed it by the next day. Well, I got the call. Actually, I got the call early in the day. I had to find a producer, had to make the beat, and I got to the studio that night, and I was able to get it done in 24 hours, though.
It's amazing.
Yeah, that's wonderful.
That's amazing. That's great. Who knew? That's awesome. We always we did that a lot with a lot of our movies, you know. And I'm surprised we didn't do a music video, because we did some for DMX. We did some music videos to tie in.
Yeah, there was one on Cradle to the Grave, right? On Cradle to the Grave, there was one, right?
Yeah.
Well, the house got destroyed before I was able to, before the concept of the record even came up. But after it got done, it was like, oh wow, it would have been dope to shoot a video in the house.
Yeah, that's a set that will be forever remembered by people for its beauty. That's a testament to Sean and everyone on his team. Well, guys, it's about 6 o'clock now. This has been a great conversation. I really want to thank you for being here, and everybody else at home watching and supporting the Frida Cinema. It's truly an honor to get to speak and really just listening to artists like all of you, the actors, the behind the scenes people, the composer, it's always just a treat, especially for the people at home. You don't always get to hear all of this kind of information off of a DVD. Actually, before I sign off, I forgot to ask, they've got Shout Factory is going to be releasing the Blu-ray of the movie. Has anyone been involved with that or contacted about that?
No.
Okay, well, that's coming out. So autograph sessions galore next year, I suppose. We'll get to watch it on the Blu-ray. Finally get some updated technology for that. But anyways, thank you guys so much for being here. You guys don't have to sign off right now. I'll just say my little goodbyes, and then I'll let you guys say your goodbyes privately after we go offline.
Can I just say one thing before you sign off? I just want to say hi to Steve Beck if he's listening, or whoever here on his talks to Steve, because I haven't in years, and tell him I said hello, and thanks for doing an awesome job directing this film. I just want to say hi to him.
Yes, if you guys have any final words for our audience, please feel free.
Well, I want to say thanks to you, Cody, for putting this together. We really appreciate the support.
Yeah.
And it's a great thing you do there at the Frida, and it's a beautiful theater. And if you haven't been there, you got to go there, because it's just going to one of these screenings there. It's just a great time, and it's so great to see the enthusiasm from the fans, and to keep a film like this going and to have it mean something today. So thank you.
Thank you, John. Actually, I forgot. Didn't your Uber driver that we sent for you, he wanted to watch the film once he dropped you off?
No, it was great. He picked me up. I was up in Ventura. He brought me down, and on the way down there, we were just having this great conversation. He was saying how much he loved the film. I go, well, just come in and watch it. You be my guest. And then he just hung out with me, and he watched the film, and then drove back up to Ventura.
That's excellent.
So, made a new friend,
Yeah.
So,
Well, I would like to say goodbye to everyone that tuned in. This was fun. I'm so happy. I just randomly strolled across this on Instagram. I was like, oh, okay, a watch party. I thought it was in person. I thought it was like a drive-in movie or something. Like, oh, where am I going? What am I gonna do? I'm dying to get out of the house. But no, this was great. Thank you for the invite, and thank you all for participating on such and having me a part of the beautiful journey of the launch of my acting career, and maybe hey, if there's any powers that be that are listening to this, we are speaking into existence the series for Netflix coming soon. How each of the ghosts became a ghost.
Absolutely, it's a good idea.
And thank you for joining us.
Absolutely, this was great. Thank you, guys.
And
Thank you, guys.
for all the rest of you as well. Thank you so much for being part of this.
It's a lot of fun.
Alrighty, guys. Thank you all for joining us. We will see you next time. Have a good night, everybody.
Bye,
Tune
everybody.
in. Go ahead.
Eric, let's chat sometime.
I think we can stay on after he makes his.
Yeah. Go ahead and stay online, and we'll have our personal goodbyes afterwards. Thank you, everybody at home. Once again, my name is Cody with Nostalgic Nebula. We do events here at the Frida Cinema in Santa Ana, California. Tune in next week on Saturday, June the 20th, for our watch party of Killer Clowns from Outer Space with composer John Massari, Dead Meat James of the Dead Meat Podcast, and some other guests that will be announced shortly. Thank you very much. Have a great night, everybody.